Hello everyone, my name is Chin Valdez, and we've actually changed job from the Wizard to the Crusader class. So today, we're going to be talking about our Holy Cross Crusader build. So starting off with our stats, we have pretty much almost all of our stats into intelligence. So Holy Cross scales a lot with intelligence here. While Holy Cross also scales with physical attack, I opted to put more into vitality instead of strength. We're usually going to be at the front line soaking up the damage so that our backliners will be able to throw their spells or their arrows at the enemies. So I opted to put more into vitality instead of strength and just get our physical attack from our equipment instead. Now for luck, I didn't really pump too much into luck just yet. No, so eventually we will be needing to put luck as well. So right now I have just 3 luck plus 30 that I get from my cards most likely, or my card album, which gives us around 121 critical hit. So if you've played Ragnarok Origin before, you would know that this kind of critical hit just isn't gonna be enough. So it more or less follows the same system when it comes to crit, except now I would say even that it's gonna be more crucial than ever since everything here in the Ragnarok crits. So right now we only have 121 crit hit and 61 crit res. Now I have seen a few players also that already have like 100 plus critical res, so they are gonna be significantly more tanky in terms of PvP. So it's going to be very important that we raise our critical hit and critical res if we want to be focusing on PvP. So I have seen one of our friends in the server, Cloud Keror, who's hitting for around 30,000 Holy Light in PvP. So he has around 235 critical hit. So that means you're gonna want 235 critical res if you want to completely negate his critical hits. So critical hit and critical res are gonna be very solid PvP stats actually. Not to mention this new PvE mode that we do have, the Brave Trial, actually also requires you to have a certain level of critical hit. For this one, it's 240 critical hit or 180 critical hit over here. So you see, there's no such thing as really having too much critical hit. You know, you're always going to be wanting as much critical hit as you can shoot for. So later on, we might be pumping more stats into luck just so we can get more critical hit and critical res. But for now, for this stage of the game, I'm pumping everything into intelligence and vitality. For equipment, at this stage of the game, it's actually still very straightforward, at least for now it is. So I'd want to talk more about the cards. So for the headwear, like our wizard, you'd still want the Elder Willow cards for more intelligence. If you do have the PvP cards like Marduk cards and the like, you'd want those as well. So right now I do have cramp cards here. I also have a Lab All My card here. So I kind of needed to use a few cards for BP, even if I had to sacrifice just a little bit of optimization. But otherwise, I'd be using full Elder Willow cards on my headwears. So right now on my armor, I'm using a Pouring card for more luck, which increases my crit and critical res, and also whatever appropriate card I might need for whichever specific scenario. No, so right now I'm using a Pasana card because the daily dungeon right now is hitting me hard with fire attacks. So I'm using Pasana card to negate that damage. On my weapon, I'm still using crit cards. So the same as our wizard, but this time we're not using dex cards anymore. We don't need too much dexterity on this build. So I'm using full crit cards. Right now I have Soldier Skeleton cards and Lunatic cards. On my offhand cards, right now I'm just using whichever cards will give me more BP. But normally you'd want something like the Ogre Tooth card, which reduces damage taken from medium monsters. So since there's no Dorum class just yet, every character or every job in PvP is going to be classified as medium. So we are focused more on PvP. So I didn't really upgrade the other sized damage reduction cards like the Mistletoe or the Executioner cards just yet. So right now we're focusing more on the Ogre Tooth card. So I do swap this in when we do go for PvP. For the cloak, I'm using the Baphomet Jr. cards for more crit and also a Mastering card over here. On the shoes, I am at VIP 3, so I still have the Moonlight Flower card and the Amon-Ra card here, of course. But otherwise, you'd go for something like the Zombie Prisoner card here. So it gives me more EXP and more damage against undead, which is primarily where I'm farming right now. So I'm farming archer skeletons. Later on, I'm also going to be farming for soldier skeletons. So something like the zombie prisoner card is very, very effective. Otherwise, you'd want something like the Ammut card, which does the same thing except for demi-human. So it's going to be pretty solid card for PvP. Or cards that increase your maximum HP or your HP potion recovery. So those are still also going to be pretty solid. And if you do have the boss cards, of course, by all means, go for the boss cards if you have them. Now, for accessory cards, it's still the same as our wizard. So I'm still using kobold cards. And we also slotted in a Horong card, which we just crafted. So it gives us more int. But you could also go for spore cards. It gives more vitality. I'd rather go for vitality than the strength cards. I did mention why I opted for more vit instead of strength in the stats section. So it's going to be the same thing for me when it comes to the cards here. So I'd rather go for spore cards over, let's say, something like tarot cards, which gives more strength. For affixes, whether on equipment or shadow gears or wherever, it's always going to be the same. You know, always go for crit, you know, the like. But otherwise, you could also go for something like holy damage increase, crit damage increase. No, it's just the same and the usual. And also very straightforward. It's the same everywhere for every job. Now, these are what I currently have on for cards. But if you have any suggestions whatsoever, please feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. We're all part of the same community here, so any input you give will help me and will help the rest of the community. For the swordsman skills, the main skills that you would want to max out are holding and endure. As I mentioned, you are a frontline class. You're primarily a tank. So these skills will help you survive more. Holding gives you just an extra layer of survivability with 30% more damage reduction when you're below 30% HP. Endure makes you immune to root and knockback pretty much forever. These are two very important skills to have. Otherwise, everything else is just whatever you want to go for. I maxed out Bash here in Fatal Blow just in case in the future we might need to use a non-holy attack, and we might in the future. But right now, I haven't really encountered any problems whatsoever by using holy attacks. We're dealing significantly less damage using Bash, even with elemental converters against the specific elemental weaknesses. We are focusing more on intelligence here to pump our Holy Cross damage instead of going for elemental attacks with Bash. So we significantly have less strength. Our stats are more geared towards intelligence and all that. So we're increasing our holy light damage, our Holy Cross damage rather, not our Bash damage. So just in case in the future, this is what I have on right now. Increased HP recovery difference at level 10 isn't too big. You wouldn't really notice it too much. So I didn't really have to max this out. And I also tried out going for level 10 provoke, which gives me a little bit more speed def reduct, but I didn't really see the difference too much. So I opted to leave it at level 1. Now again, if I missed anything or if you have any thoughts on our swordsman skills over here, please do let me know in the comment section down below. Now, for our Crusader skills, of course, I have Peko Peko riding here. Movement is king, especially in PvP, strategic PvP. You would want movement speed. So this gives 100 movement speed, very powerful. So I have level 1 Peko Peko riding here. Of course, our main skill is Holy Cross. I have this at level 10. And the thing is, I only put level 1 Spear Mastery. Now, the P-attack difference at max level is actually pretty small. So I didn't put max level. Instead, I used the points to put it into Faith, which gives me more max HP, more holy damage reduction. Holy damage reduction is very strong in PvP. There are a lot of powerful priests, monks, and crusaders in PvP. So holy damage reduction is going to be very much helpful, as well as the max HP increase. So I opted to put the stats into Faith instead of Spear Mastery. Now, I do have max level heal here. Our Crusader has pumped a lot of stats into intelligence. So we actually heal ourselves pretty strong. It helps us with our survivability, both in PvE and PvP. So this is a pretty strong skill to have in our arsenal. So I do have it max level, and I have 0 in Grand Cross. Alright, so right now, Grand Cross, I don't know if it's bugged, I don't know if it's intended, but it does say here that we deal 15% of our current max HP to use the Grand Cross. It's the 1/4 damage dealt to yourself. That's kind of weird. I would understand if it's like an instance of the damage that you deal, and then you deal it to yourself. But no, it's actually the collective damage that you deal. Meaning, if you're attacking multiple enemies with Grand Cross, you're just gonna unalive yourself. You know, you're just gonna be killing yourself right away with one cast of Grand Cross. Yes, it's pretty strong, but it's also pretty strong against yourself, and you're just gonna die. So I don't know if it's a bug or if it's intended, but right now it's barely usable. So I have it at level 0 right now. If you guys have thoughts about this, please do let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to hear your thoughts, especially about Grand Cross. Please do let me know if this is intended. Am I doing something wrong? Why am I unaliving myself when I'm attacking mobs of enemies? So please do let me know. And of course, level 10 Spear Quicken. Earlier, I did mention how important critical hit and critical rest was here in the Ragnarok. It's kind of like our PvP stats here in the Ragnarok. So critical hit, critical rest. Spear Quicken at level 10 gives us 30 crit. Now, initially, I did want to go for the shield builds, and you probably still could. You know, like I wouldn't be surprised if there are hybrid Crusader builds around. Like maybe have like a devotion build, like a devotion plus auto guard and all of these builds. And I'd probably be running that myself as well when we get skill presets. But since we don't have that right now, and I'm not gonna be grinding using these shield skills, I'm opting for more progression first. All right, so we're focusing more on progression. That's why we're going for Holy Cross. But maybe in the future, when we do get skill presets, I might make a devotion, auto guard, reflect shield and defender shield build Crusader or something. You know, the Crusader is primarily a tank. It's a frontline class, especially in large scale PvP. Something like a devotion Crusader would be very, very effective. But since we don't have skill presets just yet, I have to focus more on progression, so I'm going for Holy Cross build first. For our auto settings on our skills, it's very straightforward. I slot in heal first at the first slot. Priority is survivability, so I have heal over here. You're gonna be dealing more damage when you're not dead. So I prioritize heal over here. Then my buff over here is Spear Quicken. So that's gonna be for the 30 crit. And then in PvP, I slot in Endure over here. So this makes us pretty much forever immune to root and knockback. And of course, our primary skill, Holy Cross, which I'll be putting wherever here. And I do have the Horon card, so I do have sight. So in case I might need it, like I said before, if we're hunting down specific assassins, let's say in large-scale PvP, and we're trying to lock down a specific assassin on the enemy guild, I can slot inside over here. For manual skills, it doesn't really matter too much. You're rarely ever going to be using it, but I still have the same skills here. I put Provoke here just in case I'd use it for some specific PvE scenario, in which case I haven't really found too much use for it just yet. So, but I have Provoke over here. And of course, Endure, Spear Quicken, and Heal if I had to. And when we're using Elemental Converters, we just replace Holy Cross with Bash over here. Now, for other parts of the build where I might not have mentioned, like runes, shadow gear, affixes, they're all very straightforward. It's the same pretty much for every class. Just keep going for crit when available. And for Crusaders, since our primary damage is Holy with Holy Cross, go for Holy damage. So it's very straightforward, not too complicated. But I do want to point out the most important headwear that you would want is GF Wanted. Not really for the stats, but it's just the best headwear overall. If you made it this far and you've enjoyed the content, consider liking and subscribing. So I'm going to be creating more guides, tips, and tricks here on our channel. But I've also created a few guides about the wizard in the past. So I was primarily a wizard. I just transferred to the Crusader. So if you want to see our previous videos about the wizard, be sure to check out our The Ragnarok playlist here on our channel. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss out on our new videos. Hope to see you all on the next one.